Good morning, music fans. Today we welcome Kate Hargreaves, CEO of MusicEDU, and David Whitehead, who is the Tactical Marketing Manager for Roland Asia Pacific. And we're chatting about the innovative Making Beats course for secondary schools. Welcome to you both.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Greg. Good to be here.
Making Beats is a purpose-built curriculum for the music classroom. Kate, to begin with, could you expand on Making Beats, what it actually is, and what the initial inspiration was behind it?
Sure, love to. So, Making Beats is designed for grades 7 to 9 and even into grades 10 for music educators to be able to bring electronic music into the classroom and still be able to tick all the curriculum boxes. So, music in high schools is a little bit different to going to a band rehearsal or to an orchestra rehearsal. The teachers have a very select criteria that they have to meet for their state syllabus or the national curriculum. And it can be quite difficult to bring industry trends into the classroom, and certainly very time consuming. If a teacher took an interest in something, they would need to spend hundreds of hours to put together maybe a term's worth of work for their students. So that's essentially what we do. We look at industry trends, we look at what the market's doing, what the students want to do, but then at the same time, we're very, very much attuned to what the teachers need to deliver to make sure that, what they're delivering meets the curriculum standards where they are.
Yeah. And David, what did Roland see in this course that made you want to be partners?
It's really interesting. I mean, both Roland and myself personally have seen the fact that kids really want to be learning the music of today, electronic music and hip hop. And Roland has such a strong history in those genres. Many of those genres have been birthed from our instruments. And we want to continue to tell the young people of today about the history of this, which is intertwined between product, between music culture, and what's on the radio today is birthed from that. So we're really keen to tell that story, and also keen to provide a pathway for kids to know what they want to learn rather than what might other people decide to teach them, or may or may not gel with the young people of today.
It's true that Roland's legacy in shaping house, techno, hip hop, pop, whether it be through the 808 drum machine or the SH-101 synth sounds, the effect of Roland on music genres has been immense. How do you actually go about distilling that history into something accessible and engaging for the classroom?
It's a really interesting one because I think it's important to recognize the sound and the genre, but it's also important to recognize that these genres came from musicians experimenting. When we produced these instruments, they didn't exist. We produced the 808 or the 909. They were not designed for these genres of music. But musicians took them and took them in new directions. I think that's a really important message to keep in the classroom today for kids, that they need to experiment, that the next genre that comes out will be from somebody's brain, and to take tools in a new direction. So I think it's really powerful to tell those stories and to kind of talk through the history, And that enables them to understand, well, okay, what I listen to now has come from something. It's come from creativity. It's come from amazing people doing work for many years.
Yeah.
And the stories are really interesting. I mean, and that's, I think, Roland has documented so many of these stories incredibly well. And what we were able to do is just repurpose them, to make them classroom friendly and into mini modules for the teachers so that it's basically ready to roll out. And Roland's been super kind to us and given us access to one of their softwares, and we've designed it specifically around one of their softwares and a small piece of hardware that's very affordable for schools. And so, that engagement that is the teachers are looking for in music, and music's compulsory across Australia and all around the world in different year groups in high school and middle school. And it's very difficult for the teachers to get engagement when they've got students who have maybe had the opportunity to play music from when they were a small child, and then other students who have never had that opportunity. And it's very rare that we see the music classroom graded like maths or English. And so the music teachers have, I believe, the greatest degree of differentiation in the classroom. So they're always looking for new engagement pieces, and kids just want to make beats. That's what they want to do. They just want to make beats. They want to make things for TikTok. That's what they want to do. So we let them do it, but then at the same time, give them the curriculum ticks that have to be done.
Yeah. Making beats is unique in that it is built for the classroom rather than the bedroom. It was initially designed for school settings, avoiding complicated programs like, I don't know, Pro Tools, for instance. I guess a structured curriculum-aligned learning experience is less intimidating for students. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, we take a very linear approach in one sense. So it's a very clear pathway, but we scaffold at the same time. So that means that a student with a lot of music knowledge is able to be extended, but at the same time, a student that maybe hasn't had a lot of experience yet is going to succeed. And so we always have those two things in mind as we design our curriculum. And essentially that means the teacher isn't having to think of extra bits to add for those students who get through things very quickly and then tend to get bored and can then get disruptive, even though they're the best students, musically. But then what's really important to us is that these students who haven't had an opportunity see that they can succeed with music. They can do something. They can create. They can perform. They can perform something. And they're not comparing themselves all the time to an instrumentalist who has maybe been playing for 7 or 8 years already. So it puts everyone on an even playing field, which the teachers love, which I think is a great thing.
I think that level playing field is really important on a psychological and emotional level for the students as well.
Absolutely. And they're very peer centric at this age bracket. So, as a teenager, they're all about their friends and doing things together. And if you isolate either one of those extremes, you essentially get immediate disengagement in the classroom. So you can have a very talented musician, but if you just send them off to do something different, you've disengaged them. They want to be doing things in collaboration. They want to be experimenting like David was talking about. And that, I think this program is going to tick just so many boxes, which is super exciting.
There's something I really like about using drum machines and instruments like this that you don't need a lot of dexterity to. Most traditional instruments, guitar, saxophone, you have to have these sort of motor dexterity. And so again, students who have played for a lot beforehand have a huge advantage in that area. Whereas something that is more button pressing, knob turning, it's less about what to do with your fingers and more about the cognitive factor to it. So those students who haven't had a lot of musical experience can get into it very, very quickly. They don't need to spend hours on the instrument to get something going and to be able to have a success and have a piece of music that they can then present to their peers.
Yeah, just going back to the collaboration aspect, I find very important because in modern day music, R&B and in hip hop, the collaboration aspect is very important. Every hit that comes out, it's so and so featuring someone else, and that's actually mirrored, I suppose, in the way that this course works in the classroom.
On the collaboration side, you see students showcase their work. And one of the great things I love about music in general is that there can be no rules. It can be up to you. And so again, in something like this, you have two students working on the same piece of gear, following the same modules, and come up with creative outcomes that are different. And that's where that kind of collaboration and connection between students can happen really naturally. What I think is important and what, again, is really good to work with Kate and MusicEDU is to make sure that doesn't get too far away from curriculum, because you can, of course, get people just off in their own world, which is wonderful, but then it's not actually achieving the intent in the first place.
Yeah. So David, what are the Roland tools that are involved, and how have you tailored that to different schools and students' needs and budgets?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different key things. The hardware that we've been talking about is the AIRA Compact range. Oh, there we go. Look at that. The main one there is the T8, which is based on the 808 and 909 drum machine. It also has a 303 bass line in it. So it does bring that historical electronic history to it, and we can talk about that. These have actually been a real unlock for us in a number of different areas because they are very affordable. They retail of about $400. They're battery powered. They've got an inbuilt lithium battery, so that you don't need to be sitting in a studio space. Students can sit on a beanbag with a pair of headphones. It doesn't matter. They do have those iconic sounds. They're very, very easy to use. And then from that, there are other tools that connect to it. There's the J6, which is a Juno synthesizer. There's a vocal effects unit. There's a sampler. But starting from that 808, 909 historic Roland drum machine sound that birthed so many of those electronic instruments. And they're just a really easy access point. I've run a few workshops and kids can pick it up and be making something in 2 minutes flat, and they're having the time of their life.
Yeah. The music tech landscape evolves so quickly. How will making beats adapt to future innovations?
I
Well,
think
it's one of the things. Oh,
you've
yep,
got
after
many
you.
opinions
Yeah.
about this. I don't. I was just going to say one of the things I think we've built into this very much is the genre side of it, and I don't know if that's the way you were going, Kate, but for me, that's a really interesting thing. I come from an electronic music world, being a DJ, and from that world, and you can break down subgenre or subgenre like any musical genre. Whether it's metal or it's house music, there's micro influences there that can change, and throughout time they will change. So you can apply the same structure and you can evolve that to what is current. And again, there's probably other ways, but that's where my brain went.
And from a curriculum perspective, we've really prided ourselves on having a continuous improvement model on our curriculum. So what you see today from our curriculum is very different from what we had 15 years ago when we started. So we're updating and evolving all the time, and things happen in the education landscape as well. They update a set of a syllabus. So New South Wales had a syllabus update that takes effect for 2026. So everything has to be remapped to that curriculum. So so it comes to us in different ways, and whenever we look at things with a new lens, or we go back to something, or we get teacher feedback and student feedback. I mean, that's so important. We can think that something's going to be awesome, and then 2 or 3 teachers within the space of a short period of time independently will all come back to us and say, oh, it's good, but it'd be great if, and we're able to adapt to that very quickly and always have. And it's why so many of our schools stay with us for so long, because they're not just doing the same thing over and over again. They're getting the opportunity to bring fresh things to their students and their music department and their music program, which frees them up to do other things as well, because they're not spending all the time creating it. So it's sort of the continuous improvement model comes to us from many different angles, including the tech side of it. But yes, it can keep us busy with the software updates when they happen.
I understand that the course builds music technology and production skills, and it's a pathway to music business, I suppose, in general. How do you balance that with the enjoyment and having fun? How important is each aspect?
It's crucial, because if the students don't want to do it, then they won't do it, you know? So, but I think the validity has to be there. That's the important thing. The teachers are able to scan something very quickly and assess whether or not this is something that's valid for the classroom. So we look at what they call musical concepts and make sure that there's plenty of that intertwined into what we're doing. So from that perspective, I'm confident. It's something that we've become experts at, really, but we're never so confident that we're not able to take that feedback. Like I was mentioning before, we're always open to improving things.
Sorry,
Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, I think it's important, and I really appreciate the way that Kate and the team have structured it, in that the students can get into creating something very, very quickly, as I've said. But then there is all this extension work. There is additional stuff to continue to go down those pathways. And that enables the students to, I guess it means they keep it fun. They're not wading through written material. They're not sitting there and having to study before they can actually start creating. They can create from word go. And that keeps the fun aspect all the way through. But what they probably may not realize is that throughout the process, they're repeating certain actions, they're repeating certain concepts, and that makes it stick. And that makes it really stay in the brain for a more solid foundation of learning.
Yeah.
What I love about this too is that because of this particular piece of hardware, we've got the software as well. So the schools don't necessarily have to start out by buying gear. They can run the whole curriculum on the Roland software, which we provide as part of the course. So that's all included. But what I do love about this piece of hardware is that it takes the students away from a computer, you know, and it's one of the things that the teachers are looking for at the moment is performance-based tactile activities that are not on a computer. So it's not just all about dragging loops and things like that. It's actually tone editing and listening and creating and manipulating and experimenting. And yeah, it's away from the computer, but at the same time, because our program is housed digitally on a platform, the students are able to access that from home, from the library at lunchtime, wherever they can access a computer, they can continue on or do more. So whatever their teacher's given them access to, they're able to continue with that. So it will show up then in the data analytics of an individual student, how much time they've spent on things. So a teacher is then able to suddenly see, well, hang on, I haven't even, this student hasn't been on my radar before, and look, they're all over this, you know. And so it gives the opportunity to build connection with the students as well that maybe aren't in an ensemble or a co-curricular program or one of their other activities in the music department, but they're shining in this capacity, and that's really exciting to see happen.
And it sounds like homework is not a dirty word for these students.
I think not when it comes to this.
Let's talk more about the engagement of the students with this program. My music education was pretty dull. It was unstructured, and I'm quite jealous of what's available today. What kind of
You're still here to tell the tale, though, Greg. So,
right. What kind of feedback are you expecting from students once they get involved with this course?
well, I'm hoping that it's similar to when we launched our DJ program, which was way back in 2014. So we were very much pioneers in that space as well, bringing DJing to the classroom. And the feedback that we love is when, you know, sometimes it's just a text message from a teacher, or it's a photo, or it ends up being a testimonial where they say, you know, here's a student who has never engaged in our class before, and they've just gotten 19 out of 20 for their assessment because of this program, and they've just absolutely loved it. And they would never have, you know, had that opportunity had it not been here. So that's the benchmark for us. It's got to be Friday afternoon grade 8 proof, and that's always in the back of my mind. You know, Friday afternoon, everyone wants to go home, but when it's grade 8, it's wild, you know. So if you can put something in front of a grade 8 class on a Friday afternoon and have them into it and loving it and asking for more when the bell goes, they're not racing out the door, they're actually hanging there or coming back at lunchtime asking for more. That's the sort of feedback that we expect to hear, and we've had it from our game composer units and our DJing units. That's what we're looking for.
What skills, both musical and non-musical, do you hope students walk away with after completing the course?
You can probably speak to that, David.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that there's I'm probably reiterating an earlier point, but the biggest thing for me is to show people who weren't drawn to traditional music programs that there is a musical pathway for them. Again, you spoke about your schooling, Greg, mine as well. I did high school music and didn't want to follow traditional pathway. I was DJing in the art room at lunchtime and things like this. And I think for kids to understand that there are, you know, musical theory and musical structures and pathways for them that may not be performing in a traditional band is really important. I also want to go back to the experimentation thing. I think that experimentation is so important. You know, in current society, you can go on YouTube and learn to copy a thing, and that's not that difficult. You can use AI to generate song lyrics if you wanted to. But for us as a society to continue to push forward music, kids and all performers need to experiment and try new things, and they need that real-time feedback. And I think, again, hardware enables you to get direct, immediate feedback. That sounds good, that sounds bad. It creates collaboration moments. And so there's obviously the musical learnings of structure, song, rhythm, you know, timbre. There's synthesis and technological learnings, and then there's that collaboration and experimentation learning, which I think is also important.
Yeah. So where is Making Beats at the moment? When does it launch? And how can people find out more about it?
So we're launching at the ASME conference, the National ASME conference, which is the Australian Society of Music Educators, and that's in Brisbane in late September. So we'll be including that in our workshops that we're running there as a sponsor of the conference. And they can get in touch with MusicEDU via our new website, which is musicedussuite.com. And we have a free trial, so teachers are able to come online and actually take a look at the program before signing up. And we're taking subscriptions for term 4 and 2026.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to add about the program?
This is really exciting for me. I've seen for years now this gap in electronic music in schools. And, you know, I mentioned about my schooling, but, you know, it's a really critical time, I think. And in looking at the current popular music charts, it is absolutely everywhere. And yet there are so many teachers who know that they need to be involved in the style of music. They know that's what their students are looking for, but they don't have the time, they don't have the resources to be able to create that for them. And I've had so many conversations with teachers where the desire is there, but the pathway is not. So I think this is absolutely the perfect time to launch the program, and I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to go extremely well.
Yeah.
And equally excited. And, you know, my pathway's been very different. I was that classical, you know, instrumentalist that went into the orchestras and did a lot of teaching, and I did have that path. And the thought of bringing electronic music to the students, I wouldn't have ever considered it, because, you know, I wouldn't have ever considered myself good enough or an expert enough to be able to do it justice, and that fear of getting it wrong would have stopped me from bringing it in to my students. So I think it's essentially the gap that we try and fill, is bringing these industry trends in, but making it very manageable and almost like a mirrored syntax across all of our programs, so that teachers get very familiar and very easy to implement with their students. So yeah, we've got all of our schools waiting for us to press go on the launch, and we've got schools lining up for term 4, so we're super excited.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, guys. It's an amazing initiative, and all the best with it. And it's been great to chat.
Thanks, Greg, for the opportunity.